Welcome back to the Go podcast, man. Episode 104, week 3 of the NFL season right upon us. This week we got some hot or not, and of course, our week 3 pick'ems. Why don't you go ahead, do the honors, get us started for hot or not.
All right, starting it off hot or not. Panthers made the right choice by benching Bryce Young.
I'm going to say that is a hot take, being that the Panthers have some holes on that O-line. I think the way they handled it was wrong. I think it wasn't a bad move, benching him. He was thrown into the fire in his rookie year, didn't have much. They improved a little bit weapons-wise, but Bryce Young, still a young player, needs time to develop. I understand sitting behind a few games, but it should have been handled way differently. You know, after the week 2 loss, Bryce is our guy. Andy Dalton comes in. He's a starter. Bryce Young's thrown off. He's surprised. He's not happy with the decision. Didn't play well. So, I mean, rightfully so. I just think they handled it poorly, kind of in Panthers fashion, the way they've been for the past few years and everything that goes on with that, you know, GM, front office, ownership when it comes down to the Panthers. So, I think they could have handled it better. I kind of like the move, Andy Dalton, but it was approached wrong in the way the Panthers did it.
Hot or not, the Chiefs are still the team to beat in the NFL.
I mean, it's not a hot take. Obviously, classic Chiefs fashion, get help from the refs. Been saying that since forever. I mean, they're 2-0. They beat the Ravens, who were supposed to be AFC, you know, the contenders in the AFC. They go out, they beat the Bengals last week, who everyone, Joe Burrow in their return. I mean, you see the 49ers drop a game last week. You see the Eagles drop a game. NFC powerhouses, Cowboys got beat up in Jerry's world. Jordan Love's hurt. The Packers, another NFC favorite. So, I mean, until someone dethrones Pat Mahomes, there's really nothing else you could say. They're the team to beat. Every time you play them, you know they're going to be in the deep playoff run. In my opinion, they're still the team to beat, no doubt.
All right, and the last one. Hot or not, the AFC North is still the best division in football, like you said on this podcast.
I'm going to say it's just a little bit of a hot take. You got to go through the divisions to determine which one it exactly is right now. Honestly, I don't think any division in football is a clear cut. Maybe AFC West? Like, I don't know.
As much as it pains me to say, bro, it might be the NFC South right now.
NFC South, you think so? I mean, you still got the Carolina Panthers in that division holding it down.
Bucks,
Saints,
Falcons.
We'll get into that Falcons game that, you know. But I'm going to say that is a hot take because the Bengals suck. I kind of called that one. The Steelers somehow got 2 wins off the backs of their defense, which, you know, I told you if they're going to win games, it's off the backs of their defense. Picking on rookie quarterback Bo Nix, and then you got the Ravens, who somehow blew a fourth-quarter lead to Gardner Minshew and made Gardner Minshew look like Aaron Rodgers throwing to Devontae Adams in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to say that is a hot take, which I said. Yeah, go ahead. But they're right on par. I think everyone's inconsistent this point in the year, this early on. So it's still trying to find division's true colors, but I'm going to say it's a hot take.
All right, those are my 3.
All right, man. I got 2 for you this week. Starting it off, hot or not, Sam Darnold is a legit starting quarterback in the NFL.
I'm going to say that's a hot take just because it's only been 2 weeks now. Granted, you know, we saw him go out, put a good performance against a 49ers defense who made Aaron Rodgers look pedestrian in week 1, and we know how good that Niners defense is. But I just want to see it more consistently because let's not forget this is the same Sam Darnold, you know, went out for the Jets, seeing ghosts, then goes to Carolina, isn't the answer, sits for a bit at San Francisco, was the backup, couldn't beat out Brock Purdy because remember, when he signed to San Francisco at first, it was a legit battle. After Purdy got injured, it was Purdy's second year. Still didn't know if Purdy was that guy yet. He still had a lot of questions. Everyone was questioning, you know, saying it was more the scheme in the team. Now, you can still argue that, but you have to give Purdy some credit at this point. So Purdy was still a question mark when Sam Darnold came over, and it was a legit battle going into camp. And Brock Purdy ended up winning. Mr. Irrelevant beat him out. So the talent is there. Former first-round pick, top pick. Like, there's some tools and stuff there. I think this is by far the best environment, the best situation. Kevin O'Connell's a great coach, great play caller, scheming things up. He has Jefferson, arguably best receiver in the league. So we're definitely seeing Sam Darnold be able to play to his strengths. I think he can become, a permanent starter or a permanent answer or a solid quarterback in the league. I just want to see it yet. So I'm going to say it's a hot take just because it's early. It's only been 2 weeks, but I think he does have a legit chance to develop into a solid starting QB in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think a reporter today asked Baker Mayfield about the Bryce Young situation because you brought up Carolina. Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield played there, didn't have success. They moved on. Could it be the Panthers? Sam Darnold kind of revenge games first 2 weeks playing at MetLife, his old home. And then, the Niners team, which Brock Purdy eventually beat him out. And, they left. I believe he was cut. But second, hot or not, the Ravens are in serious trouble after losing to the Raiders last week.
It's a hot take. I don't know how you can't say anything other than, you just can't have both of those losses. And I know, week one opening game came down to the very, very last play, inches away from, tying the game and giving yourself a chance to win. And then at home, week two, just a collapse in the fourth quarter. And we've seen the Ravens, as an Eagles fan, I'm not one to speak, but we've seen the Ravens give up these leads last year to the Dolphins. It's kind of
to the Browns at M&T Bank.
It's kind of something that Lamar and his Ravens team can't really seem to get over. That defense, I think, has seemed to regress. Looks like they're missing McDonald back over there. It's tough, man. AFC North, like you mentioned, it's not the best division in the league, but there's a bunch of tough teams. Like the Browns, they have a solid defense. They got a good win on the road. The Bengals play the Chiefs to the very last play, arguably should have won that game. Steelers, maybe the best defense in the league. There's going to be some tough games on that schedule. They have the first place schedule. They're going to be playing some tough teams. So if I'm the Ravens, I'm worried. I'm concerned.
So you said it's not a hot take. You said hot, but you meant to say not hot. They're in serious trouble.
Ravens are in trouble, bro.
Yeah.
Hot or not, whatever it is.
That's going to wrap up my hot or not while we got a Florida hurricane in September behind us. But I got a little, debate for you. Not really debate. Quick fire round of a would you rather. There's a lot of comments. We were talking on that Monday Night Football game. Which Jalen Hurts version was showing more true colors. So right now, would you rather Jalen Hurts, first name up, C.J. Stroud?
Before I get into this,
okay,
I'm going to say Jalen Hurts played a very good game. Vintage Jalen Hurts was on display against the Falcons on Monday night. If it doesn't come down to that last drive, we get a perfect vintage Jalen Hurts game. Legs, he looks super explosive. This is the best I've seen him run since 2022, since the Super Bowl. I think he had 85 rushing yards or something like that. But he's at the point in his career where he's just going to get one or two just Jalen Hurts plays. And we almost made the game without having one of those. Unfortunately, the defense put him into a position where it felt like he had to play hero ball. And you know what that happens when Jalen Hurts plays hero ball. He throws interceptions. So that last drive, you'd like to see him go down and win the game. But before that, before he had an opportunity to lose the game, I thought Jalen Hurts played arguably his best game since the Super Bowl. So I was not upset at all with Jalen Hurts that game. But let's go get into this. Ask me the questions.
Would you rather C.J. Stroud
or Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
I'm taking C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud. Next name up on the list, Baker Mayfield.
Jalen Hurts. Baker's looked good, but Jalen Hurts just brings so much more in terms of running, and he's won more games, bigger games. But, yeah, give me Hurts.
Jared Goff.
This is a tough one. I feel like this is the tier that Jalen Hurts is in. But if Jalen Hurts can continue to play like he did last week and he's back to running the ball and he adds that explosive element to his game, I'm taking Hurts over Goff. Goff hasn't looked that good this season also.
Next name up, Brock Purdy.
Give me Jalen Hurts, bro. Brock Purdy, another quarterback who hasn't, had the best start to the season. So I'm gonna take Hurts right now.
One guy that has had a hot start, MVP conversation, Derek Carr. Right now,
I'm gonna say Jalen Hurts, bro. But I mean, we're gonna watch this Saints-Eagles game next week, and we're gonna talk about it. And Derek Carr is gonna have so much better a game than Hurts, just because the Eagles' defense is so bad. But I'm not buying it, man. I'm holding out hope on the Saints not being legit. Give me Hurts.
I'm rocking with your list, man. I'm not mad at it. I kind of agree. Somehow Derek Carr is up for that conversation right now. But that was my last name. That's gonna bring us to our week 3 pick'ems last week, both going 7-9. Game ahead of you in the pick'ems, both going under 500. In week 2, some upsets, in our standards. First game of the week, Pats Jets, man, and I'm gonna go ahead and start us off. I got the Jets at home, MetLife. Still, that offense hasn't shown true potential. Brees Hall was able to break out a little. Allen got 2 TD scores. It's still shaky for the Jets, but this Patriots team has played some good football in the first 2 weeks, beating the Bengals. Overtime loss last week. So they've been playing a lot of gritty football. Jacoby Brissett leads the helm, veteran guy. He's not going to lose you some games, but he's not going to wow you with his talent. So good veteran quarterback. I think the Jets at home should get this win. Aaron Rodgers, another game getting his feet wet after the injury. It really should be easy sledding for them in this game, but the way this Pats team has played, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a chippy, low-scoring game, especially Thursday Night Football. We know how those games go.
Yeah, I'm going to rock with the Jets here as well. It's their home opener, I believe, and usually that's a good thing, but back at MetLife, the Jets could play every game on the road. They probably would.
Prime time.
Yeah, but regardless, like you mentioned, you pretty much hit everything on the head. The Patriots, super, like you said, greedy team. They play physical, but the one thing I do like that I saw from the Jets is that run game got going against Tennessee. So, take as much pressure as you can off of Aaron Rodgers until he's back there fully comfortable, fully healthy. Take a few more hits. But right now, just keep running the ball. Brees Hall, like you mentioned, is looking really good. They're getting rookie Allen involved. He had 2 touchdowns, like you mentioned. Get Garrett Wilson going some more. I think as the time goes on, as Rodgers gets more comfortable, as they can lean on that run game a little more, this Jets team will get better and better. Defense makes some strides as well. Haven't looked as advertised so far. A couple big plays against Tennessee as well, but it helps when Will Levis is just throwing passes backwards every single week.
Big plays through Will Levis' faults.
Yeah, I think this will be a good game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots keep it close, maybe sneak out a win here, but I think the Jets are the better team at home, primetime. Rodgers does enough. He gets the win here.
Next game up, man, Sunday football. New York Giants travel to Cleveland to play the Browns. In this one, I just got the Browns. Last week, saw better quarterback play from Cleveland, saw flashes. The one area that has really struggled is the penalties for Cleveland so far. They had, I believe, 13 penalties for almost 100 yards in that Week 2 win against the Jaguars, which kept the Jags going. There was a drive that the Browns were in the red zone, inside the 20, and they ended up in their own territory come third down. So got to clean up the penalties, man. First 2 weeks it's been rough, undisciplined football. Hopefully, Conklin and Jed Wills can get back healthy on that tackle position. Saw Myles Garrett show some flashes. Defense played a lot better. JOK still flying around the field. And this Giants team, it's the Giants. It's Daniel Jones. And really don't have too much faith in them. Neighbors showed out last week, though, I will say. And that D-line is something to look out for against a struggling Browns O-line.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Browns, too. Pretty much, piggybacking off everything you said, I went into this looking to pick against the Browns until I saw they were playing the Giants. You mentioned the Browns showed some flashes, but overall, I would still say I'm not a Browns fan, but you would still want to see more from this Browns team. So I think we can both say they're not playing up to their potential as of yet. But I mean, listen, we love talking about get right games. You know, even coming off of a win, this Giants team is who you want to play against. Last week, I believe they were the only team in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns and lose without the other team scoring a touchdown in regulation. So, yeah, not good. Give me the Browns at home against the Giants. Just not a good team. Shout out Malik Neighbors, though. He's going to be a dog.
Next game about that NFC matchup you spoke about. Eagles travel to New Orleans and play the Saints, home of the Super Bowl this year. I'm gonna go ahead. I took the Saints. Just the way you mentioned that Eagles defense, I'm sure you'll dive into it. Really struggled that final drive, man. You know, and the way they handled the end of game coaching wise, obviously up for discussion. I'm sure you're going to talk about it. But this Saints team's been firing on all cylinders. This offense, Alvin Kamara looks like Alvin Kamara of old. He's running the ball crazy. Derek Carr's hitting Rashid Shaheed for those bombs that they thought was going to be happening last year for the Saints. He's breaking out this year, and the Saints just have it going on everything. And that Eagles defense is a real question mark effort-wise, and Jalen Carter being benched to start the game. It's just a lot of questions. I like the way Hurts played last week. I told you 2022 Hurts is probably back in week 1. He showed a couple flashes. You didn't necessarily fully agree, but I like the way he's played so far. Got Smitty involved. Still with no A.J. Brown, was still able to find a way to get that offense going. So I'm gonna take the Saints in this one at home.
Yeah, I'm going to just, hit the main points here. I could have my own entire episode on what happened that game and, what went wrong. Regardless, I'm not going to say too much about the offense. I thought the offense played good enough. Saquon Barkley is an absolute animal. He's a beast. You just got to catch that ball, man. It's really all it comes down to. A lot of people saying you just run the ball twice, run the clock down, just hand it off. We were running so well. We were, but perfect play call. Saquon was wide open in the flats. A perfect ball from Jalen Hurts. Hit him right in stride, in the hands. Put a good touch on the ball. All he had to do was just catch the ball and we win. So I don't hate the play call at all. Everything was perfect. You just got to execute. Offensively, I thought we were great. Offensive line, everyone held up. Receivers without A.J. Brown, I thought we're good enough. You were texting me, who's number 18? Little white receiver. Brandon Covey definitely stepped up. He made a couple big plays. I'd like to see Goddard get involved more without A.J. Brown, but I can't really ask for much else offensively. The problems and the issues come down to the defense. And defensive line, I can go over every single player and just talk about them, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We have 0 run defense and no pass rush. Bryce Huff is the only person I'm going to talk about right now. $52 million a year, paid him in the offseason. Over 2 games, he only has 1 assisted tackle, not even a full tackle, just 1 assisted tackle, so 0.5. 0 rushes, 0 pressures, 0 QB hits, 0 tags, 0 tackles for loss, 0 tackles. He's absolutely doing nothing out there. And I think it's the scheme, Vic Fangio's scheme. He isn't really a good fit. In the back end, you just got to get the young guys out there at this point. I mean, Darius Slay is out there on his James Bradbury tour at this point. It's exactly how it looked, man. In the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, 1 big play, and it was just downhill from there. That Drake London touchdown might be Darius Slay's Bradbury moment. So just give me Quinion Mitchell out there on the outside. Tough final drive for him. Was pretty much the only person they were picking on when they went down to win. But throughout the game, he looks like to be the only corner out there playing aggressive. He's jumping routes, playing physical. I've liked what I saw for him the first 2 games. He's just a rookie. He's going to have to learn to be better in those situations. You can't ask more from him. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, boom or bust. I've been saying that since he's been in Eagles. He's going to give up a deep post on a 0 blitz, and miss the tackle. But on 4th down, when it matters the most, he's coming up. He's the one hitting Bijan. Helmet coming off, running around, getting active. So you can't really be too mad about Chauncey. That kind of just is what he is at that point. A lot of stuff went into losing this game, but the defense has to be better, which I don't think it will be. With that being said, I've been telling every single person that I know or that has asked me about this game coming up, bet any single Saints player that takes at least 1 offensive snap, take their over. Because I don't see a world where the Eagles defense, what we saw last week, coming over to this week in New Orleans with the way this Saints offense is looking, Alvin Kamara might have a better game than he did Christmas against the Vikings a couple years ago when he had 5 touchdowns. He might have, he could legit have 6. Rashid Shaheed is going to run past any defender we have back there. Like, he's blown by Darius Slay. Olave is going to eat. Everyone is going to eat, bro. That Saints online is looking pretty good. Gave Micah Parsons and that Cowboys front some trouble. I can only imagine what is going to happen to this Eagles defensive line. It's going to be an ugly game. I think it'll be high scoring because I do think this Eagles offense is good enough to move the ball. I like Kellen Moore's play calling, but the only way this Eagles season gets back on track is if they come out and get a statement win against the Saints, but I just don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be a long season for the Eagles, so give me the Saints in this game.
Next game up, man. We got the Houston Texans traveling to Minnesota to play the Vikings. And I got the Texans getting a nice road win. Joe Mixon is banged up. He is questionable. Dameon Pierce could return. Run game's been really going for the Texans. Last week, Nico Collins, huge game from him. Continues to be Stroud's number 1 guy. We came in saying Diggs might be the third on that, receiving room when it comes to Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Stephon Diggs. And, Nico Collins showed why he's Stroud's number 1 guy. He's getting open every play. He saw him. He was hitting them. They did play the Bears. Good defense, but obviously easy win for the Texans. And then the Vikings, Sam Darnold talked about it. He had that 93-yard touchdown pass or whatever it was to Justin Jefferson. Absolute bomb. You saw his arm, that why he was drafted so high, his arm talent down the field, able to hit Jay Jets in stride. He makes a play downfield. I think this is going to be a good game, man. I got the Texans winning on the road, and I do think it's going to be more of a shootout, over on. I'm not sure what the over-under is, but I got a 30-31, 28-S game between the Texans and the Vikings. So,
yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. Arguably game of the week. Two teams that are hot right now, 2 super high-powered offense and pretty solid defenses, but I'm going with the Vikings at home, man. They've been rolling, and we saw last week against the Bears that Bears defense gave this Texans offense a little bit of trouble, especially once Mixon went out. You couldn't run the ball as much. It was a low-scoring game. That Bears defense really stepped up, so credit to them. Caleb Williams had a chance to go down and win the game. Also, at the end of the game, their defense held him in. They were just blitzing him and saying beat us, and that offensive line couldn't hold up. Regardless, I don't think the Texans are going to be able to just blitz Sam Darnold this week and say beat us because of the weapons he has on the outside, and the offensive line is better. So I think we get a lot better game here. But I think the key to this game is going to be the Vikings defense. I know the clip going around after the game, Brock Purdy telling Brian Flores, he's like, man, your defense is a problem. Like, that defense gets after it. And you saw that defense was really, creating turnovers, creating pressure, getting to the quarterback, causing trouble for Brock Purdy against one of the best offenses in the league. So I think C.J. Stroud is going to have his handful. I think, both teams will be able to make their big plays. You mentioned Nico Collins, absolute dog. Jay Jettas, he was fully practicing. He's on track to play, so you get a healthy Jefferson. You always have a shot. I think it's going to be a good game, but I just think at home the Vikings defense steps up, makes a couple big plays, gives Sam Darnold the ball in plus territory. He's smart enough, just get the points, get the win. And I like the Vikings here at home.
Talking about coordinators, I meant to mention this, the Eagles conversation. Vic Fangio tried telling you, man, he's not good as a D coordinator, but maybe that's a discussion for later on in the season. See if he could turn it around for the Eagles. Broncos, Bucks in Tampa Bay. Bo Nix has had absolute fits trying to run an NFL offense, struggled mightily in his first 2 weeks. Obviously, last week playing against, arguably the best defense in the NFL and Steelers. The Bucks, they've been hot, man. Baker Mayfield and this offense has been clicking. Bucks at home, I'll take them all day.
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. If it wasn't for the Saints, they'd be the hottest team right now in the league. A couple of nice wins on the road. They get back home this week, or a nice one on the road last week. They get back home against the Broncos. You mentioned Bo Nix. It's just been tough right now for the Broncos. Not a lot of playmakers. Bo Nix not making really any plays at all. And then when he does, not getting a lot of help from the perimeter, a bunch of drop passes. Really no run game. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this Broncos team kind of turns out to be, because you saw last year, Russ got him a couple wins. He was good enough. But this year, with the rookie in, some growing pains, Sean Payton, a solid coach. But this is definitely going to be a uphill battle. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. They've been flying around, playing good defense, scoring a bunch of points. Chris Godwin looks like, prime Chris Godwin out there in the slot, and Mike Evans is just telling Baker to throw it up. He's coming down with it. So, yeah, give me the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and you mentioned the receivers on the outside. Not much help at all from the Broncos. Green Bay Packers travel to Tennessee in Nashville to play the Titans in a Malik Willis revenge game coming here for the Packers, man. Give me the Pack on the road. Will Levis has found ways to lose football games, and that's really what it comes down to. Titans legit shot in week 1 just to beat the Bears by not turning the football over atrociously. What does he do? Turns the football over atrociously. 2 straight weeks. I mean, you got your head coach out there saying it's boneheaded play, like it's stupid. At a press conference, he clearly is not have much faith in you at quarterback after that. Called you immature. Not sure if that's good for team morale or if it gives Will Levis that extra push to be better at quarterback. But Malik Willis played a great game for the Pack last week, had the Colts winning that game. He did his job. He's able to run. He was able to make a couple throws. That Packers defense played well against Anthony Richardson, forcing 3 picks from him. Give me the Pack on the road. There's not much to like in this Titans. Calvin really did get it going with 2 touchdowns last week, but I got the Packers getting the win on the road here.
Yeah, I like the Packers here as well. Titans have a pretty solid defense. It just comes down to like what you mentioned. Will Levis in that offense, very inconsistent. Don't really know what you're getting. With the Packers, you know what you're getting. Malik Willis and a lot of running. So, back in Tennessee, it'll be interesting to see how they game plan against him because he's been there past couple of years. But I think we see a lot of what we saw against the Colts for Green Bay and just quarterback run game. I did see Jordan Love was practicing and might be able to play this week. So we'll see what happens there. If Jordan Love comes back and he's healthy enough to go, I definitely like the Packers here. But if I'm Green Bay, I wouldn't even rush him. You got to win already with Malik Willis, so you're kind of just playing with house money at this point. So get him back fully healthy and just run Malik Willis into the ground. So give me the Packers.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Even if you don't want to rush Jordan Love back from almost a very serious knee injury, and it still is serious knee injury he is dealing with. Next game up, man, the Bears travel to Indy to play the Colts. This one, I mean, that Bears defense saw them practically carry this team. You mentioned the pressure Caleb Williams is dealing with every single snap, not good at all. He's fighting for his life. You got C.J. Stroud, the opposing quarterback that you played, telling you, don't take as many hits. I think it's impossible not to take as many hits if you're Caleb Williams. The Bears got to create a way to get the ball out early and quick for Caleb Williams and get the run game going to where, you could establish the play action, buy him some more time because that offensive line desperately needs it, and that offense really needs it. On the other hand, you've seen 2 different Anthony Richardsons so far in 2 weeks. I mean, that's the inexperience from him. Just not getting enough games and making mistakes. You saw his arm talent in week 1, and then you saw his, immaturity and inexperience last week, turning the ball over so many times. He's going to be, hit or miss quarterback, turning the ball over a lot of big plays. But expect the Colts to get that run game going. The Bears are tough defense, but Joe Mixon had the ground game going. Expect Jonathan Taylor to kind of do the same setup. Anthony Richardson on the ground as well, create plays downfield, and Josh Downs maybe returns as well as another weapon on the outside for AR. So give me the Colts at home against the Bears.
Yeah, I like Chicago here, man. Anthony Richardson, tough week on the road against the Packers. It does not get any easier this week with the Bears. This Bears defense, I believe, is up there with the Steelers, with the 49ers. It's one of the best units in the league right now. Week 1, it single-handedly got them a win against the Titans. Special teams and defense making players all over the field. And then in week 2, they put their team in a position to go down and win the game at the end. Made C.J. Stroud kind of have to struggle. Other than that one big play to Nico Collins, they played a really, really sound game, and I thought Chicago gave the Texans some trouble there. So Anthony Richardson, an inconsistent young quarterback, like we mentioned, not a lot of experience, only 19 starts under his belt from college and the professional league. I just think this defense is going to give him some troubles. And offensively, for the Bears, if there's ever a time to kind of figure out what you got going on, it's against this Colts team who has allowed I think they've allowed the most rushing yards in the league so far. I know last week against Green Bay, they got ran all over. So, and then the week before that against the Texans, Joe Mixon had his big day against this defense as well. So maybe they try to get DeAndre Swift going here, a couple of those running backs, Khalil Herbert. But I think what you mentioned, a lot of quick game, maybe some quick screens that is kind of an extension of the run game with some of those RPOs and stuff. I think they can have some success there. This could be a game where Caleb Williams gets his confidence, maybe gets his foot set, and has a good rest of his rookie year. But I just think this is a bad matchup, man. Anthony Richardson, inexperienced. He likes the big shot, but underneath, you got to hit those consistent intermediate short routes. He's just not very accurate there. And if you're not accurate there, this Bears defense, they got a lot of talent, a solid pass rush. I think they'll definitely make you pay. So if Anthony Richardson doesn't have the best Anthony Richardson game, I think you'll see a couple takeaways, a couple turnovers, make life easier for Caleb Williams in plus territory, and I think the Bears can get a win here. I think they're a better team at this point than the Colts.
Yeah, Bears defense is definitely elite. Next game up, Chargers, Steelers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This one, J.K. Dobbins, 2 straight games, 100-plus rushing yards, first guy for the Chargers to do it since LT. Harbaugh, he's changed the culture of this Chargers team. They were, Brandon Staley taken as a joke. Harbaugh, you know what they're going to do, man. And you saw Herbert out there play really good last week as well. He's dealing with an injury. Should be back healthier this week. Saw Quentin Johnston, 2 touchdowns last week. First-round pick. A lot of doubt this season. Last season with the drops. Seems like he might be on the right foot stepping forward. And this Chargers run game, Harbaugh's got him playing that Michigan-style football, ground and pound, and J.K. Dobbins is not letting down. Looks like he's revived his career. And then the Steelers, it's just up to their defense. If they can play well enough, they could win the game. But scoring 1 touchdown in 2 weeks with Justin Fields, Ben Roethlisberger comes out and says Fields should be your guy, even if Russ is healthy. Don't know what he's really liking from Justin Fields. He's basically a younger Russ with just more mobility at this point in his career, but less game manager role, which the Steelers need. That's what they want. But give me the Chargers on the road against the Steelers.
Did you switch your picks here? Did you have the Steelers before?
Yeah, I might have had the Steelers. I switched one pick last night. I'm not going to lie to you.
I think it was this one. When I looked at it yesterday, I think you did pick the Steelers. But I'm glad you kind of – well, I'm not glad because I could have had a win over you. But, yeah, I like the Chargers here as well, man. The Steelers, we pretty much know what they are at this point. An elite defense, and then, like you mentioned, offense just has to do enough. I will give Justin Fields some credit here. I think him and George Pickens have had the most called back big plays that I can remember. Whenever I see a big pass down the field to George Pickens, it's either a holding call that's bringing it back, or he's pushing off for offensive pass interference. So, the connection down the field has been there with George Pickens. It just can't really, be clean enough and get the call. But I like the Chargers, man. Coming into the season, it's pretty much exactly what I figured. This Chargers defense has been really, really good. Now, granted, they did play against the Panthers last week. And then the week before that, they played the Raiders. But we saw what the Raiders were able to do last week on the road against the Ravens. So you got to give them some credit there. I think they've only allowed, I believe, 13 points in their first 2 games. So Harbaugh has really got this defense playing well. And then offensively, like you mentioned, man, Justin Herbert is just a supercharged J.J. McCarthy at this point. They're turning around. They're handing the ball off. And they're running the ball, I think, 35 times a game. J.K. Dobbins is getting all the big explosive runs, but I think Gus Edwards has more carries than him on the season. So it's not like he's getting every single carry. No, they are running this ball. So the Steelers defense, the strength, T.J. Watt, Highsmith, those guys pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback. I don't think they'll have a lot of opportunities to where, they're leading and the other team is just going to have to be passing all game. So they're definitely going to have to, be solid on that run part. And I think it'll be a close, low-scoring game, but as long as the Chargers are able to control the line of scrimmage, Joe Alt, we talk about him every single week so far. Last week against Jadeveon Clowney, held him to his lowest pass rush grade of his entire career. The week before that, shuts out Max Crosby. So it'll be a fun matchup to see, TJ Watt go against him and Slater on the other side, a really solid tackle as well. So that offensive line, if they're able to hold up just a couple big plays for J.K. Dobbins and get in the end zone, force Justin Fields to have to drop back and beat you, sounds like a recipe for success to me. Give me the Chargers.
Let me say, Clowney's not good in any way, but shout out Joe All. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, speaking of Clowney, bro, the Eagles pages and stuff on social media saying might have to bring someone in to help this team. Like, Clowney's a name talking about. Like,
there's no way.
No one is going to help us at this point, especially not Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, the guy with zero heart, zero motor. Adam next to Jalen Carter, and that
we already have that.
Yeah.
Shout out Jalen Carter though. He's the best player on our defense, but tough matchup against Lindstrom last week. But you got to see more. But I don't want Clowney.
Two
not a good
low
environment.
motor guys. Yeah, next to each other. Next game up, man. Dolphins Seahawks 12th man in Seattle. I'm not gonna do too much commenting on the Dolphins. Just bad defense. Now, no Tua, even when Tua was in the game against the Bills. That Mike McDaniel offense really starting to grind my gears a lot more now that they're losing football games with his little – I don't even know what his play calling is anymore, man, because it wants to be, a little bit of Shanahan with his own twist, but Shanahan, he gets it done a little more old school fashion, and McDaniel tries to do it his way. I don't remember the last time I saw a regular handoff in the Dolphins offense. It's always that little quick toss. And sometimes it goes for 7 and sometimes it goes for -4. And Skylar Thompson's our starting quarterback. Almost beat the Bills in the playoffs one year. Never forget that. But Seahawks, man, they've looked pretty good so far. So give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks have been playing some good football. Got the win against the Broncos week 1 and last week against the Patriots. Geno Smith just absolutely was dealing. DK, JSN, both of those guys getting involved. JSN's kind of breakout game. I think he had 10 catches or something like that, over 100 yards. So really nice to see Geno spread the ball around, get those guys involved, Lockett with a big catch down the stretch as well. So we know what they're capable of there. Kenneth Walker might be back. If he is, that's a plus because Charbonnet has been okay but hasn't really looked as efficient as a runner compared to what Kenneth Walker is. You put him in there, hard nose, breaking tackles, running downfield.
It's so over against the Dolphins. Kenneth's in the lineup.
Yeah. Just powerful runner. And the Dolphins, it's tough, man. As long as you have Tua and that offense and those weapons on the perimeter, you guys have a chance. But without Tua, he's on IR. Until he gets back, it's going to be tough for this Dolphins team. So I'm going to pick Seattle on the road. And we remember what happened last time the Dolphins played in Seattle, man. Shout out Kenny Stills.
Hey, I don't know if that was the last time, but the fact that you
I think it was, bro.
Still remember that from nearly 10 years ago.
That was
89, yeah.
Definitely
probably
a
Ryan Tannehill
a moment in
bomb
time,
too.
man.
Kenny Stills.
A lot of controversy behind that play. We won't really get into at this point.
Panthers, Raiders. Raiders got a big road win against the Ravens last week. And the Panthers starting Andy Dalton. Hey, man, as someone that has 2 leagues of Deontay Johnson stock ownership.
Yeah, congrats.
No, not congrats. Very bad. Had to start him last week. He's back on the bench, thank goodness. Yeah, just give me the Raiders. Not much to say. Panthers are bad all around.
Yeah, so the Panthers figure out what they want to do with the organization. I am picking against them. Raiders coming off of a nice win, back at home in Vegas. That stadium's going to be rocking. Raiders Nation travels, especially at home, so it's going to be a crazy game. This is another one of those games where if you have any Raiders offensive players take a snap, start them in fantasy, bet they're over, it's going to be a high explosive game for the Raiders on the offense just because this Panthers team is so bad.
Yeah, shout out Tay Adams too, man. Finally got it going last week.
Yeah, beat me in fantasy. Up into the fourth quarter, I was looking good until I checked the score and saw he had like 20 points in the fourth quarter, so that was cool.
Yeah, still lost one of those leagues somehow. Next game up, man. Niners Rams in LA. Niners home game. Psst. The Rams beat to all. Just all. I don't even know what to say, man. Demarcus Robinson might be wide receiver 1 next week.
He is, not might. He is.
Cooper Kupp banged up. I think he avoided IR. Puka's on IR. I wanted a Kyron to go on IR because I got Blake Corum. I want to see what he can do. But, I mean, this Niners team, tough loss last week you mentioned against the Vikings. I think they get it back on track. Brandon Ayuk, no Deebo Samuel probably, no at all, but Ayuk expected to get it going. You know, Purdy hits Jennings a few times. Solid receiver. Run game hasn't really missed too much of a step without CMC. Obviously, you like to have him back, but Mason doing just fine at the job. And Matthew Stafford, he's literally going to have to put the team on his back, which is going to be a tough task. So give me the Niners in basically a home game. So,
yeah, this Rams, brutal, man. Like, injuries are destroying this Rams roster. I think they've lost 3 tackles, 3 left tackles, a bunch of injuries on the offensive line. You mentioned, Puka and Kupp. Like, it's going to be tough. That Cardinals game was hard to watch last week. Like, it just seemed like every single time Stafford got the ball, there was just instant pressure from a Cardinals team who I think was dead last in pressures and, pass rush last year. No real good pass rusher, but they were able to get to Stafford just because the injuries and, people not being able to play. So it's going to be tough. You pretty much said everything with the 49ers. They'll definitely get back on track here against the Rams. Another one of those LA games where it's going to feel like a 49ers home game. That's for definitely sure. But, yeah, until the Rams can get healthy, I think it was Bill Simmons' podcast. One podcast I was listening to suggests that Stafford should just volunteer himself on the IR and just come back when everyone's healthy and Puka and Kupp can come back. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough couple months coming up here for the Rams so they can get everyone back healthy. Hopefully, they can be playing their best football at the end of the year when it matters the most. But right now, in the foreseeable future, it's going to be tough for the Rams. So give me the Niners on the road.
Yeah, and that's how they snuck into the playoffs last year where you kind of mediocre, banged up, end of the season, that Puka-Stafford connection just took over. So
yeah,
maybe they could work out the same thing.
Kupp came back healthy to the end of the year.
Lions, Cardinals in Arizona. K1 looks back. And, yeah, I really don't know. I'm going to do a mid-episode switch. I took the Lions.
First one of the year.
First one of the year. Yeah, it's going to be me. Watch. They'll probably lose now, the Cardinals. I'm taking the Cardinals, man. I really like what I saw from Kyler Murray. The run game has been consistent. But that defense, you mentioned no names on it, but they made some plays against the Rams, made it tough for Matt Stafford. This Lions team, outside of their win against the Rams, where in overtime they just handed it off to David Montgomery, and outside of, Amon-Ra just being targeted so many times in the game, and Jameson Williams one deep ball a game, or big plays downfield, that Lions offense has seemed to struggle at times. Granted, now the Cardinals much easier defense, expect points to be put up on the board, but Kyler Murray, he looks sharp. I've really been saying it since before the season. Expect to see K1 when he first came into the league. He looks good, and I really think he can be, a top 10 quarterback in this league. And if he continues to play like he did last week, he will have a shot. So give me the Cardinals at home. The Lions, you got to unleash Jahmyr Gibbs at some point. Just let him be an every down back.
Yeah, I'm with you here, man. Going into this game, I like the Cardinals, man. Kyler Murray, coming off of the disappointing week 1 loss, some questionable words in the media saying, it's not his job to get Marvin Harrison going. A lot of question marks there, but we saw on the first drive that was pretty much just a troll, and he was just telling the media what they wanted to hear because he came out, found Marvin Harrison Jr. early and often. Insane game from Marv, kind of what you wanted to see, what he's capable of. That's, pretty much what he can do every single week. Just an absolute animal out there on the field. And you mentioned Kyler Murray hanging in the pocket, running around, creating. Trey McBride, another really good option for him. Kind of like his check down. Marv's not open deep. Hit Trey McBride over the middle. kind of a safety net. But yeah, this Cardinals offense is moving, man. James Conner's looked nice. They'll be able to run the ball, and I think that's really what's been able to help them open up this offense. They're getting the run game going. Defense, they just got to be good enough. Buda Baker's flying around. They've been making some plays, like you mentioned. But yeah, I just have some real concerns for this Lions team. Horrible red zone offense last week. It kind of seemed like as soon as they got something going, just a mistake by Jared Goff or not able to make a play or, get stopped on fourth down. So you want to see that offense become more efficient in the red zone and, when they're going to score. Defensively, I think the Lions will be fine. Aiden Hutchinson had like 10 sacks against Baker last week. Like 4.5 or 5 or some insane number like that. I think you liked him early on in this season. Kind of mentioned he was going to be a really good player. So, that's looking like he might be the sack leader, DPOY. He's up there. But outside of that, you want to see more plays made by this Lions defense. I think this also will be a really good game, a bunch of points scored, but at home, Kyler Murray, I think, that playmaking ability, it's just something that the Lions haven't really seen yet and something that I don't think they'll be able to match. I think the big play will be there with Marv and Kyler pretty much whenever they want it this season. So give me the Cardinals at home here for a win.
Next game up, Ravens, Cowboys in Jerry's World. And it pains me to say this, the fact that I picked the Ravens and then you'll go, obviously, but both picking divisional rivals in this game. I'm taking the Ravens on the road, man. I just don't see Lamar going down 3 games in a row, 0-3 to start the season. It's tough. It's been tough for this Ravens team, choking that second game. Week 1, obviously heartbreaking loss at the end. Pretty much buzzer beater, missed touchdown by not throwing it to Zay, and then the play before likely toe out of bounds, everything like that. And the Cowboys, they played an unmotivated Browns team in Week 1 and got absolutely spanked at home last week. And, I mean, it wasn't even close against the powerhouse Saints in the NFC. So, give me the Ravens. Zay Flowers getting a lot of targets. He seems to be like Lamar's guy. This offense, I want to say Lamar's going to be running around and go very first MVP Lamar, ground game Lamar, but with Micah chasing him, going to be a tough task. But I'm just, after last week, the Cowboys look demoralized. Know they're supposed to be a home team. One of these teams got to budge. I'm just betting on the Ravens. I've seen them play so many times.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same with you. Like, I've seen the Cowboys, and definitely not a way you want to start, your season at home last week against the Saints. We've talked about that. The Saints are pretty much rolling. They're on fire. And the Cowboys weren't really able to play the brand of football that they play with Dak Prescott when they win the game. When Dak is able to have a run game, play complementary football, hand the ball off, and then work off of those, play action shots, and then get the pass game going, that's when this team wins football games. The Ravens' offenses look good, but it's not. No one's offenses look good as the Saints so far. So I don't think they'll be down 35 points in the first quarter at half again, like they were last week against the Saints. So I think the Cowboys will be able to, add the run game. Dak will be a little bit more comfortable, and I expect this Cowboys defense to step up and make some plays, man. Micah Parsons really was a no-show. Trayvon Diggs wasn't really making any plays there as well. So you want to see this defense come up, make some big plays. That's kind of what they were last year. They make they'll give us some yards, they'll give us some big plays, but when it came to it, they were turning the ball over, scoring touchdowns on the defensive side of the ball. So I think we see the Cowboys defense get right here, and I just think Dak in this offense has a better game. That Ravens, it's tough, man. They were supposed to win that game. They were supposed to put that game away. Losing like that to the Raiders at home, that's just a bad taste I can't get out of my mouth. Like, the Cowboys got destroyed, but they pretty much weren't in it at all. The Ravens had the game won, and they let the Raiders come back. So I think that's a worse loss. Although that's like you just picking hairs at that point, trying to figure out which is the worst loss. Like, they're both horrible.
Blown lead, just blown out.
But I think the Cowboys at home, right now, I just think they're the better team, man. The Ravens have some real questions there on defense. I think CeeDee Lamb gets going. That Ravens pass defense hasn't been that good. You saw Adams eat last week against them. Bowers had a good week as well. Yep. And then before that, week 1, Rashee Rice and the Chiefs were able to find some success through the air. Worthy got into the end zone a couple times as well. So give me the Cowboys here. They find a way to get it done at home, kind of get back on track, and you have some big question marks down there in Baltimore.
I'm fine with that if that happens, man. I'll take the loss in the pick'ems.
Yeah, but hey, man, listen. As an Eagles fan, I'll definitely take the Ravens win too, man. Like,
That's why it's so ironic, man. Yeah. Next game up, Chiefs Falcons in Atlanta at the Benz. I mean, Falcons, they got a big win. Primetime Kirk, led a game-winning drive. You mentioned that Eagles defense, not really buying it. I think this Chiefs defense is much better than what the Eagles have played so far this season from the top down, basically. On paper, the Eagles should have a better D-line, but, you got Chris Jones still. Bijan Robinson, he's been, solid. They were able to get Drake London in the end zone for Atlanta, but there hasn't been much to like with this Falcons team, even though they did win the game. Just really haven't seen anything truly from Kirk. That Achilles injury, his mobility, his kind of drive, throwing the ball downfield, haven't really seen much from him. Chiefs, Pat Mahomes, 2-0. You mentioned hot or not, are they still the team to beat? I still think so. Even on the road, tough task. No Pacheco, but I really don't think it matters if they put Steele or Samaje Perine back there.
Sign Hunt to the practice
squad. They did
squad.
sign Hunt. I don't think that was. I don't know. I saw an unmotivated Kareem Hunt towards the latter half of the season in his end of the run in Cleveland. So we'll see if he's got a different motor. Obviously, first week back, don't expect him to see the field much. He'll just be there. But give me the Chiefs, man.
Yeah, dare I say Patrick Mahomes has looked human to start the season this year.
Yeah. Hasn't
looked like, Patrick Mahomes of old. But at the end of the day, he's still going to be good enough to get this team a win. Defense is still going to be able to make plays. And Rashee Rice is basically the new Travis Kelce. Like, they use him the exact same way they used to use Kelce, using him on those short little motions, get him over the middle of the field. But he can also line up outside and get you a nice touchdown down the field. So I think Rashee Rice is going to be a big explosive weapon for this Chiefs offense. Pacheco is a huge, huge blow. Losing him, he is pretty much, I don't want to say the identity of the team because you have Patrick Mahomes, but they were definitely, one of the teams running the ball more, handing off to Pacheco. He was fighting for those hard yards, extra yards at the contact. Everyone makes fun of how he runs. So I think that'll definitely be a tough loss for the next couple months with that fibula injury. But regardless, I don't believe in this Falcons team. I just think this Eagles team was that bad and is that bad. So Kirk Cousins is definitely going to have a tougher time in the pocket. Still was not moving at all. The Eagles pass rush just didn't get to him. So like you mentioned, Chris Jones, Karlaftis, those guys, I think they'll give him some trouble on that defensive front. And I think this defense will fly around and make some plays. And, yeah, Chiefs are still the Chiefs until I see otherwise. Give me KC.
Next game up, Sunday Night Football, man. Jags travel to Buffalo to play the Bills. And the Jags, 2 games where they're very winnable for them, and they just found ways to lose the game. They get pinned deep against the Browns. Trevor Lawrence takes a safety, big blow. They also have a chance to, get the ball back and win it. Unable to do so. The connection with Brian Thomas has looked good. Brian Thomas has looked good in this offense. It just, they can't seem to get it clicking, and it seems to be that same old Jag story. They have it all there. ETN with a solid game last week. They're just unable to play complete football, and from the top down, from coaching to the players, it's very questionable. I think they do have a legit chance to beat the Bills here. The Bills blow out the Dolphins last week. Week 1, much tougher game against the Cardinals, able to close that game out as well. But Josh Allen practically did nothing last week. It was the James Cook show. Expected to be a little different. Still got the Bills at home getting a win. Their defense looked real good against the Dolphins, but partly think it was on part of the Dolphins why their offense was so bad and not the Bills' defense. But they play well. I'm going to take the Bills at home primetime football, though.
You know what? You made a change early. I'm going to make a change here, man. I'm going to spice things up. Give me the Jags, bro, in this game against the Bills. You mentioned the Bills had a nice comeback win at home against the Cardinals. But then against the Miami Dolphins, pretty much just had to do nothing. Tua gets injured. You just hand the ball off. James Cook scores a bunch of touchdowns. This Jags team, their backs are kind of against the wall right now. Like, this is like, I don't want to say it's a must-win game, but this is a game I feel like you can win and you should win. Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked as good, but whenever he's targeting Brian Thomas, like, I feel like great things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get him the ball more. You got to figure out a way. These rookie receivers so far coming in are looking, super explosive. They're looking like difference makers. So get them the ball. You see what the Giants are doing with Malik Neighbors. He has a bunch of receptions, had a huge game against the Commanders last week. And then, the Cardinals make it a focal point to get Marvin Harrison the Jr. the ball last week. You see his big breakout game. They need to find ways to get Brian Thomas the Jr. the ball down the field, intermediate, just get the ball in his hands. Like you mentioned, it seems like he's their only real big explosive playmaker down the field. And I think he can definitely give this Bills defense some trouble. So ETN, I like him. Ball security issues. Should have won that game in Miami, but I like him to bounce back. I think Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. And the Jaguars have had some success against this Bills team. I know when they played them last year, it was at their home stadium in London, but we're in New York this game on the road. I think this will be a big statement win for the Jags. This is kind of one they have to win. And I don't think the Bills look unbeatable. So give me Jacksonville here on the road, man. I'm going to take the Jags.
I will say it is you won't say I think it is a must-win game for the Jags.
Well, if you want to say it's a must-win, I think it's a very important win.
As much as must-win you could get in week 3 of the NFL season. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Kind of want to see something from that offense, a little hope, a little life. But Commanders, Bengals, Monday Night Football. Not expecting a Jaden Daniels breakout game this week. Barring that, I will take the Bengals at home. They looked a lot better last week in their game against the Chiefs. Jamar Chase, did he cost the Bengals the game? Question mark there, man. His antics on the field, big penalty for the Bengals, but Joe Burrow looked a lot better. This Commanders team, they're running through Brian Robinson Jr. at this point in the ground game, so if it's not Jaden Daniels, 3-yard flat screen or RPO or read option, I want to see a little bit from him. I don't know if Monday night on the road against the Bengals is the time to unleash some big plays, but the Bengals should win this game at home, and I'm not mad if they go, 0-3. So,
I'm going to take the Bengals here as well. At home, you mentioned Joe Burrow and that offense looked a lot better against Kansas City. Kind of seemed like, they finally woke up. This team always starts slow. So kind of on brand right here for the Bengals. And against this Commanders defense, you mentioned Jamar Chase might have lost them the game last week. Well, I can tell you this. He'll definitely help them win the game this week against this Commanders defense because they just give up points to every single body. Points, touchdowns, receiving yards, whatever you want. This Commanders defense will give it to you. Malik Neighbors went for 10 for 120 to the touchdown on them. The week before that, Chris Godwin's Mike Evans destroyed them. So, yeah, Jamar Chase is probably the best receiver they faced all season. T. Higgins might be coming back healthy. This will be a great game to come back to, help get your feet wet, kind of like a extended preseason game. We mentioned that last week. But, yeah, the Commanders, not really much going on defense. Jaden Daniels, I like him. He's been playing pretty well. Not a lot of help on the outside, not really getting a lot of guys involved. I will say Zach Ertz has kind of been his safety net over the middle of the field. You want to see Terry get more involved, but, Cliff Kingsbury is just going to have to figure out a way to get that offense going outside of, like you mentioned, Brian Robinson and those short checkdowns. But I will say Jaden Daniels, I think he's playing pretty good for what's around him. He's got to be able to slide. Don't take so many hits. He's already taken a bunch of crazy hits and a couple hits where you're like, okay, he's done for the season. Somehow gets back up, so that's good. I will say Jaden Daniels is the favorite to win Rookie of the Year now. Odds are at 550. He's a plus 250 favorite right now. So Jaden Daniels is looking good. My future bet's looking good. I've invested in him in fantasy a couple times. That's looking good. You just got to stay healthy. I think this Commanders team will have a bright future. Now, with that being said, future is years down the road. But right now, they're in no position to compete with the Bengals. So, yeah, give me Cincy at home.
I might lock in. If I could still lock in, should have locked in Marvin Harrison after week 1. His odds probably dropped. That was my take on it. But, yeah, that's going to wrap up week 3 NFL pick'ems, man. Hopefully, we get a little turnaround on both sides. In our win and loss column, any last comments, takes, anything like that?
Oh man, that's pretty much it.
Guardians 1 game away from clinching a playoff berth. They just need 1 win, and they're in. So, playoff baseball coming around. Did want to comment on that. This is the year, but it's going to wrap up Goal to Go episode 104, man. Goal to Go pod on TikTok. Goal to Go on everything else. And until next week, we'll be back with another episode, man. Peace.